Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 11 of the Future Ready Librarians podcast series, Leading from the Library. This is a podcast for all librarians wherever you are in your journey. It is filled with amazing guests, important topics, and engaging conversations that will inspire, engage, and support all of us as future ready librarians. I am your host, Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa, and serve as the Future Ready Librarians Leader. I have the pleasure of working within my library and school community and also with others around the country and world through Future Ready Librarian events, conferences, consulting, writing, and more. I am honored to bring these voices and the work of others to our podcast and to all of you. Well, today on the podcast, I'm excited because we're going to talk about Battle of the Books. And this is something that I have helped with. We've hosted it. Now we do it kind of together with teachers and my assistant. But you two are doing something really cool. And that is tying in STEM to your Battle of the Books. So when I heard about what was happening in your district, I could not wait to have you on the podcast and to talk more about STEM Battle of the Books. So I'm really excited to have you today. And let's just start by having you introduce yourselves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Natalie Strange. I'm the Director of Library Media Services in Guilford County Schools in North Carolina.
And I'm Nancy Cravey. I am the coordinator for our Library Media Services Department in Guilford County Schools.
Oh, well, it's so great to have both of you on. And like I said, I'm really excited because Battle of the Books is something that our kids love. And I always think in my head, I wish that more kids would also do Battle of the Books. And so when I heard this, I was excited because I think this is a way to get our kids just really excited about reading and about STEM and robotics. And so we're going to hear all about it. So first, let's just start because some people listening, maybe they don't know what Battle of the Books is. And so let's talk first about what it traditionally looked like in your schools.
So I'll take that because I run the program in our district. In North Carolina, the state program is run by the North Carolina School Library Media Association. So to run a program in your school, your coach has to be a member of the organization, and they set the rules and they select the list for each level. And there is a competition level for elementary, for fourth and fifth graders, for middle school, and for high school. So the book list range from 16 to 23 or so books. It depends on the level. Middle school usually has a larger book list. Teams can be 12 participants. They have to read the books, or as many of the books as they can. And ideally, you want at least all the books to have been read by someone on the team. And then schools compete against each other, and it's basically a quiz bowl. You know, the questions are very formatted, and it's in which book does a character ride a bike? And then they need to answer with the author and the title, or the title and then the author. And they get points awarded based on correct authors, correct titles, and then basically it's, the cumulative points, and whoever gets the most points wins. And so we have a district level competition. And we run preliminaries, so because we have a lot of schools competing. We have 35 schools signed up for this year in our elementary competition. So we run preliminaries and we whittle it down to the top 8 schools. And then we have our top 8 finalists compete against each other for first, second, and third place. So we've seen, traditionally, I can pretty much predict which schools are going to participate. And then it's come to the point where we have coaches who've been doing it a very long time. And so they are really strong in their practice and they know really how to prepare their teams. And so you can almost also kind of predict which 8 teams are going to make it to the finals. So
Yeah, I get that because we have teachers who have done it for a long time, and the kids also, are kids who do it over and over too, and we even have parents who help too. And so you always know that. And so when you think about like how you turned it into STEM. So you call it STEM Bob or STEM Battle of the Books, right?
Right.
I love
Bob
that.
is the abbreviation we use for
Yeah,
all the books. So yeah, so it's
I
easier to,
I love
shorten it.
that. So let's just now tell us about STEM Bob, STEM Battle of the Books.
Sure, I'll take this one. So, STEM Battle of the Books, one of the things that we wanted to solve is how to get more students interested in STEM Battle of the Books and in reading those Battle of the Books titles, and helping them to maybe chunk the text, do like a close read of smaller sections. They could really get into the book and get that introduction and show their learning in different ways. So we were looking for ways that students could creatively respond in a more open-ended format, working in a group so we get that collaborative experience and still really sink into the texts to better understand the reading. We know that traditional Battle of the Books does a great job with our on grade level and above readers and keeping them motivated and asking questions that they're going to be focused on finding, and they will read all of the books in their entirety, really looking at those details. We wanted to gear something that we could even start with shared read alouds for a section of the book and then help students to look for those details in it and use those to answer a problem that's introduced in that segment of the book. So we started with the same titles that were used in Battle of the Books. We selected for the first year, we did 4 preliminary challenges and 1 final challenge. So students had the opportunity to practice their skills, and we started with some really brief segments of text and helped to build that stamina for reading as part of the experiment too.
I know. And so I'm in my head, because I know that you guys have a video out there that we'll share too in the notes. But tell us then, like now to take that one step further on how that actually looks. Like, what do you use? Like, all of that. Because that's, I think, what is just so inspiring and really neat how you've done this.
Thank you. Um, We started off talking with another district that's right adjacent to us, Winston-Salem Forsyth, and asking them if they would be interested in helping to co-develop something like this. We also reached out to our STEM department for help, and we started to look at what materials we had in common and how we could use them. We wanted to have a robotics component, and for that solution, we looked at Robo Wunderkind. So both of our districts use Robo Wunderkind already in our school libraries as a solution. We liked that it had different build options. You had different ways you could build your robots, different types of materials you can combine with that. We also all had Legos that were available, so we wanted to make sure that Legos were a piece of it. We introduced Magnetiles as one of the building materials for students to use. And those were our main focus for the first year as far as like what materials they could use. Nancy also helped us to curate a list of additional materials that they could include, like found materials, paper, pens and ink, tape. We allowed hot glue. We also used just like a simple building block in order to help as well. So just depending on that challenge, that we would have that solutions.
And we
And
really
then we
focus on,
practice. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Well, I was going to say, we really focus on, as far as the process, encouraging them to use the engineering design process.
Yeah.
So we provide them with a planning sheet so that they can work through that and have the students go step by step, kind of thinking through and working together and planning and building and then revising. And so Natalie will talk more about then what they submit to us, but part of what we want to see is how they worked through that process, and then how did they improve and maybe refine their final solution to solve the problem. And again, bringing in our STEM department, that was the focus there because they're really trying to encourage that use as well.
Well, and I'm sure that that meets a lot of their goals too. And so that's a great partnership, not only within your district, but in the other district. Did their STEM department get engaged too?
So with our Winston-Salem cohort, our representative there sort of split between, she was basically at the time coordinating maker spaces in library as well. And so that's how she was bringing in that STEM focus for engineering design process.
Oh, that's a great idea. And so are all the kids doing this from elementary to high school?
Great question. To start off, we started to focus on just elementary school and wanted to build it there and make sure that things worked out well, get all of our kinks out before we try to replicate it at other levels. With focusing on the elementary school, I think that let us see how students approach those problems, how they can interpret that engineering design process, and hopefully start to build the students with those capabilities. So as they move up, we may be able to expand the program in the future.
Now, so do the kids, I can't imagine what they like feel too when they not only get to read, but my kids love doing robotics. I mean, they love doing anything where they're making or they're playing with, if it's Legos or building. I mean, anything that we can give them around our makerspace and our STEM program, they absolutely love. And so how do you like tell and prepare your kids too for what STEM Bob looks like?
So I think in a few
Oh,
different ways. I mean, we worked a lot last year since it was the first year with working with our coaches to help them build the capacity. Because what we didn't want was a librarian to say, I'm just not a STEM person. I don't know robotics. I'm not going to do that. So we really built in help along the way. We met with them. We kind of talked through the challenges with them so they could kind of be thinking about it so they could help guide their students. The idea, we definitely want the students being the problem solvers, but we didn't want our librarians to feel overwhelmed and that they didn't have the capacity or the competence to really guide the students. So we focused a lot on that support. And that too, I mean, because we kind of spaced it out, each challenge built on the other and added in skills to make sure that by the time they got to the final challenge, which was blind, they went into the finals and they got the challenge when they got there. But we made sure that each challenge was building the skills they would need for that final challenge. So they wouldn't be asked to do anything that they hadn't done before in some way. So we really, I think that piece, just focusing on building their confidence, I think help them enjoy it more and get more excited about it. And also just giving them the time to struggle and work through. They got really excited when they were able to figure it out. The videos that we got, just kind of showed their joy when, they finally got it to work or when they finally had something that they could submit. And so for us, that was just a huge reward. And I think also for the librarians as well.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
definitely.
glad you mentioned that, if I can and jump in. That idea of productive struggle, I think we also reinforce with librarians that they don't have to know the
Hmm.
answer, right? This is for the students to be able to experiment and to test different ways because there's not just one pathway to solve the problems that we created. There are multiple ways that you could construct or build in order to solve that problem. And so students are going to have to reference the text, they're going to have to play and experiment, test their designs, try new activities in order to solve those problems. And so you're coaching them along the way. But it's okay that you don't know the answer. And that's a different type of teaching for some of our teachers. And I think it's also is a bit of a relief to know that you're coaching them along and you don't have to know all the answers to start with, that we're going to discover this together.
Well, and I think like listening to that too, I think that it's really neat because I'm sure this opened a lot of opportunities for you to even collaborate beyond just Battle of the Books and what you were doing with your new STEM Battle of the Books program. Because I know if it was my teachers, or even my kids, they would say, like, well, I saw what you were doing. Like, I want you to come do that with my class, or I have an idea for that. And so I think that's a very valuable thing, just adding something that is focused around STEM and showing them the tools that you have oftentimes is what you need to show them how that works together.
I
Yeah,
love
and
that.
that's
And I
we
do
make sure
think
that
we've
they
seen that.
have the materials.
Yeah.
And that's one was something another way that we supported the schools. We tried to make sure we gave them the materials that they would need for the challenges, the bigger, the more expensive materials. They could also then use, like Natalie said, those found objects, but then they did have those at their school now to be able to use with other STEM activities, with teachers, with other classes. So hopefully, that does, like you said, open those avenues. And we try to encourage the engineering design process and STEM integration in other ways as well. So this is a partnership that we've had ongoing now for a few years with our STEM department, to really show how libraries support not just literacy and reading, but those critical thinking and problem solving skills.
Mhm.
That's so great.
An offshoot of that, I think that we also have monthly STEM challenges where they might be using some of those materials in order to solve those STEM challenges. And they can enter to win little prizes that are sponsored by our local Association of School Librarians. And Nancy helps to coordinate that. And then we have STEM activities that go along with our picture books for the North Carolina Children's Book Awards, and
Oh,
connecting those and with the robotics, Robo Wunderkind, and other STEM materials too. So,
that's great. Yeah, I want to see those because we also have Robo Wunderkind at Van Meter, and there's nothing better than finding a great book to tie into something that you're doing around robotics and STEM because I think that's where we had this great conversation with Stellar Librarian today about that because it's where we shine, right? Like we don't want to lose that literacy piece of us and the importance of books and reading, but also we have these other passions ourselves that we want to do and collaborate with the kids and the teachers and really, hook them on learning all of these skills too. So I think that's great. So tell me what one of like your favorite little challenges is. Now I'm really super curious. And your book.
in our book. Um, let's see. With the robotics challenge, let's start with what our final challenge was last year. And we're glad to share these resources as well. But for the final challenge, students were reading The Lost Library. And in this case, they did need to read this entire book. It was the one whole book that they needed to read in order to accomplish it. Um, when they came into the challenge, they'd already pre-built. They were given the assignment to build out some of the locations that were described in the book. And they knew that they were going to have to create a map and locate those in their correct placement. And then what they were doing is following the character's pathway. They had to build a robot using Robo Wunderkind that could pick up a metallic key and then deliver it to the place that the key needed to go for the lost library. And so to see students figure out how they could build a device that could pick up that key, how they could figure out how to drop or deliver the key. There were a lot of different construction elements that went into that they were doing live. And for our final last year, we were able to have that competition at our local science center,
Oh,
which was fantastic for our students because they were just immersed in that environment. When they weren't competing, they got to go out and see some of the displays. They got to see some of the animals.
oh, that's
So it was
so
just a
cool.
fantastic, fantastic day.
What a fun thing. I mean, our kids absolutely love everything they can do with the Robo Wunderkind and having it pick up a key. Like, that's genius. I love that. That is so cool.
It was so much fun. So some, built like an arm that could reach down and pick it up and had it, they would attach a magnetile to the end. Others of them had like an underneath carriage that could drive over the key in order to pick it up. Some of them used like a pushing device that they built out of Legos at the front. But that flexibility with Robo Wonder can let them really experiment with different
Yeah.
ways to solve the problem.
Absolutely. And I love that it can be used with so many different ages. And so that's a great thing that they can, it doesn't, I think that creativity and that open-endedness too of
Mm.
asking them questions, it reminds me of like Destination Imagination, how,
Mm.
that problem solving, and my son was in that when he was little, but it's very similar, but using all of these great tools that we have focused around STEM is genius. I love that. I bet that your families and just your community have really loved seeing this come into play too and get excited.
Well,
I think so, yeah.
yeah, my husband is a physics teacher that's retired. And then, of course, my son is a huge STEM person, wants to be an astrophysicist. So we would have him sort of test out a lot of the problems too. Like, okay, baby, I need to build a robot that can pick
Yes.
something up. Like, how would you do it?
That's a great, yeah, that's so cool. I know. Well, I'm inspired from the moment I heard what you were doing. Like I was like, we could do that at our school, and I know that our kids would love it. And I think it would be fun too to, have your kids someday tell our kids about it. So we'll have to plan that because they would get so excited.
Oh, we would love that.
That would
Yeah, they would.
that would be so cool. Now, if people want to follow what you're doing, we're going to include that video, which is a YouTube link, but how would they find you on social?
That's a great question. I'm going to be retiring. So, in this year. So my social may not be the best one to follow to see what's happening in Guilford County Schools. So I would suggest following our Guilford County Schools
Mhm.
social, and I will make sure that you have that link because they are going to be posting about STEM Bob. We're going to have that information there as well.
Very cool. Well, you guys are awesome. And I love that you just turned something that we've all done for a long time. And my own kids were in it and absolutely loved it. And they're still readers. But I think this is really great because we're just inspiring all kids that they can read and be creative and innovative and use these great tools. So thanks for the inspiration and for sharing your story too. Oh,
Thank
Thank you
you.
for inviting us.
I know. And so keep me up to date. And I'm definitely going to reach out, but I'm sure you'll have others following too. So have fun as you get ready. So when does this kick off in the school year? That's another.
So we had all our signups this week. So
Oh,
they
very good.
schools had to tell me by Friday if they were participating in our traditional Battle of the Books program, because that is still running, or if they were going to be doing our STEM Bob program. So we'll have a meeting with the coaches at the end of the month to kind of talk about the structure of the whole competition. And then also kind of give them time to practice. Like I said, kind of give them time to kind of look at that first challenge so they could start thinking about it. So they're probably already starting to form their teams or recruit students to kind of find out who's interested. So they'll be doing those three initial challenges between basically now and February. And then the final will be at the end of March.
Oh, so fun. Well, you guys have a great time, and I'm going to follow along. Now I'm hooked on this ever since I've heard. So I absolutely love it. But thank you again, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
As always, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarian podcast series, Leading from the Library. And a very special thank you to our sponsors, Follett Content. You make a difference in our libraries, schools, and within our lives, and that of our students every day. We appreciate everything you do. I hope you can take what you learned in today's podcast and put it to use within your practice as a Future Ready librarian. If I can support you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or X or Instagram at Shannon M. Miller or at my email at shannonmcclintockmiller@gmail.com. I am always happy to help and support each and every one of you. Until next time, friends, keep finding ways to lead within and from your library.